if you find yourself consistently having to be in control, if you find yourself having difficulty expressing your emotions and talking about things that affect you and talking about your feelings, this might resonate with you. If you have a numbness to things, right? You don't really feel, you don't really express. This also could resonate with you if you're extremely competitive and you have the need to one up everyone in every situation and just be seen. Assalamualaikum everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my channel if this is your first time sipping with us. My name is Aisha and I am your host. Today's episode, the spotlight is actually on me, or rather on the topic of femininity, a topic that's very, very near and dear to my heart. I talk about this all day, every day, because as an African Muslim firstborn daughter living in the West, I think it's very important that we push the correct narrative, right? The Quran tells us one thing, the society shows us another, and I know I can't be the only one who experiences it. I see it everywhere in my family, in my friend groups. So I thought I'd bring the conversation here. So join me for a cup of tea, and I also have some dates, and yeah, let's talk. So I actually have my journal here with me because this actually was a journal entry from the first actually of this month. I decided to write about this because I found myself being extremely tensed, and being tense kind of is related to being a little bit masculine. I felt a lot of tension in like my neck, and it just made me think to myself, I am way too angry right now. Like that's the word I want to use. I'm too angry. I'm too in control or trying to be into control about everything. And I felt like I had to let go and release a little bit so I can be back in my feminine energy. And that's what prompted me to start journaling about this. So I started off by kind of writing down how I felt and finding the source of my stress, anger, and anxiety and breaking it down, right? So the reason why I'm also bringing this up is because there's like a lot of discord on the internet. I know you guys have scrolled through TikTok and you've seen those like femininity gurus talking about how to look feminine, how to dress feminine, how to speak feminine. And if I'm being completely honest, there's a little bit of toxicity that comes with all of that. Because femininity and the essence of femininity isn't an aesthetic. Like, it's not the way you look, it's not the way you talk, but it's something within. And even if, as a woman, you've been forced to live in your masculine energy based off of, you know, traumatic experiences, childhood experiences, it's okay. We can unlearn. To be feminine is actually your fitra. And for those of you who don't know, type it over here. But that's something that's innate to you, right? It's something that naturally comes to you as a woman. And another point that I wanted to bring to light for you guys is that when I say being your feminine, that doesn't mean there's so much negativity that's associated with acknowledging, recognizing, and exercising your masculine. Now, here's what I mean when I say that. I wrote down in here actually. The femme is the heart and the mask is the mind. Kind of think about it like that. Or this cup and the tea that's within, right? So feminine energy is supposed to kind of be seen as this fluid, free, soft essence, right? And this cup, which holds the water or holds the tea, it creates that protection. It's rigid, if you will. There's structure to it. That's the mask. And together, we have this functional cup of tea. We can drink the tea out of the cup, right? That's how I want you guys to look at the relationship between the mask and the femme and gauge the levels based off of, you know, whatever works for you in your lifestyle and have that perfect relationship with oneself. Okay? So this topic specifically would resonate with you if you find yourself consistently having to be in control, if you find yourself having difficulty expressing your emotions and talking about things that affect you and talking about your feelings. This might resonate with you if you have a numbness to things, right? You don't really feel, you don't really express. This also could resonate with you if you're extremely competitive and you have the need to one up everyone in every situation and just be seen. Now, it's not that this is so entirely negative, right? But where is it coming from? That's the question that you want to ask. If any of these resonated with you, you may be in your wounded masculine. And I implore you guys to go ahead and do some more research on this on your own, because when you have a better understanding of what these terms mean and what they look like, you'll be able to start the real healing, right? So if any of those apply to you, let's kind of like break it down. So being in your healthy feminine or in your divine feminine, that means that you go with the flow. You're a little bit passive with everything. You understand that everything will work out with the grace of Allah. You know what I mean? And the reason why I'm even bringing that into play is because part of this discussion is also understanding the concept of tawakkul, right? And again, if you understand anything about Islam, you would understand the importance of tawakkul in your faith and in your day-to-day ideologies. So that's why it's really important to have that balance of femininity in you, because you understand that no matter what I do, at the end of the day, God is in control and he will see me through, right? And so the important part of having that feminine aspect and having that feeling that everything is going to be fine is that you kind of relinquish control over to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, understanding that everything will work itself out. That takes a lot of stress off of you. If I had honed in on that thought, that energy, when I was so stressed this day, all the tension in my neck probably wouldn't have even been there, right? And like I just explained this whole analogy with the cup, the mug, the way that would have worked out is I do my best and I leave the rest, right? And that's me being in my divine mask and having those two balanced together. So I would have understood that, yes, everything works out the way Allah wants it to work out and I can be free and let go. But at the same time, understanding that Allah is in control, but I have the free will to do my best and leave the rest to Him, those two together make for the best cocktail of the best believer and someone who has that free will in life, just like moving. You'll be less stressed, right? So anyways, I bring all those things up because I feel like oftentimes we have this like very interesting idea of what femininity is supposed to be and what it's supposed to look like, again, specifically as it pertains to someone that looks like me. And I wanted to just point these things out because even if you relate to being in control or being somewhat anal about things and being extremely critical of people, it's not because you're a bad person. It's not because there's something wrong with you. It's because you've had experiences that cause you to kind of recoil into a shell and put up a barrier that protects you from disappointment, that protects you from being ridiculed, that protects you from just not being good enough, right? But realistically speaking, you are good enough. You are good enough. If you are also someone who is in their wounded masculine, you also have a difficult time asking for help. And I know that for me personally, I've had my times where I think I have to do it all by myself. For example, in the kitchen, that's a perfect example. I'm cooking in the kitchen. I love cooking. I have no problem cooking. It's something that comes naturally to me in the sense that like I just enjoy it. But sometimes the kitchen can get a little overwhelming. And because I feel like, oh, people are going to complain when I ask them to do something for me, or I'm going to get a little bit of pushback, I find myself being in the kitchen for 6 hours when I could have been there for 3 hours if I just asked somebody to come assist me in the kitchen. And that's me being in my wounded masculine and not being able to ask for help because I'm scared of the pushback. I'm scared to be vocal about how I feel about things. And as you can see, that's not healthy. A lot of our mothers, that's something that they've struggled with, that you may have seen it in your household growing up, and you might have taken it in as something that applies to your life as well, because that's just the way things work. And it's not. It's not. So I list all these things now. Like, what do we do, right? What's the next step? The next step is figuring out how to fix it. So I wrote down a few things that I feel like work for me and I have been implementing in my life, in my day to day. And I'm gonna read them out to you. Probably have like a little list right here for y'all. So, the first thing is making time for self reflection and awareness. So, when you do this, it gives you the opportunity to reflect on where you're coming from, and this is how you're going to be able to fix any problem in your life. And like, it's finding the source of the problem, right? So we're taking the time, we're journaling, which I do quite often. We are sitting with our emotions, we're sitting with ourselves, we're finding peace and solidarity. I mean, in solitude rather. And we are just unlocking more of who we are, right? You're just sitting alone with your thoughts. That's the perfect place to start. Then, after you've done that, you'll realize that your inner child is directly connected to her fitra, right? Like it's natural, it's something that comes to her naturally. But everything that I listed beforehand, it's learned behavior. Learned behavior based off of circumstances and our environment, and specifically being in this Western society. Let's be real. They want to push femininity down our throats. Femininity, I mean, not femininity. What they call that stuff? Feminism down our throats. I'm just a girl, okay? I'm just a girl. We don't all have to be CEO, doctor. We don't all have to do those things. Like sometimes you'll find peace and happiness in just doing things that fulfill you truly. And that's part of sitting with yourself, finding what truly makes you happy, not what's going to make your family happy, not what's going to make your future spouse like you more. You know what I mean? Being feminine is being fulfilled in oneself and what you actually like to do because you're softer. You're not thinking as much, you're just doing. And of course, we want to have a sustainable living. Let's find the balance in it. We're smart girls, right? Next thing, invite practices that connect you to your body. And I listed out a few for you guys. One being going outside and taking in nature and taking in fresh air and getting some vitamin D, okay? Like, I know that after hours and hours and hours of spending time in front of my computer screen doing work and taking one call after the other, I get drained. I feel pooped. I feel like, okay, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to socialize. But the moment I step outside to take a little walk down the trail, I feel better. It's like my purpose in life has been reinstated. And I'm like, okay, life is not that bad. I'm good. And that's because, like, I'm just taking the time to appreciate everything that's around me and breathe in some fresh air and move my body. That is one way you connect your yourself to your body, right? Like that's one way. Another one is mindful movements. And I actually wanted to talk about this because oftentimes you'll hear these wellness gurus talk about like yoga and stuff. Have you guys ever thought why yoga actually works? I always say this, Islam is the foundation to everything. If you ever notice all those chants and those movements, those pauses that you're taking in yoga, we do similar movements during Salah. And so, for my Muslim brothers and sisters, literally being intentional and connected to your Salah can be a very good way to connect to your femininity. I feel like oftentimes we're always moving so fast. We're just trying to move through the day and we're trying to get through the next thing, and our Salah becomes secondary. It's like one of those things we just need to get done. And Omar Suleiman talks about this in one of his videos during this Ramadan series, and he talks about planning your Salah, your day around your Salah, right? And it's not just because it's important to prioritize that. No, like obviously that's a key factor. It's part of our pillars of Islam, right? But it's also because if you guys think about it, the reason why we even do Salah in our day, like why we have it 5 times a day, is because God wants us to continuously connect with Him. It's very difficult to sin, right? If you are continuously performing ablution and continuously connecting with the law and being intentional within that Salah, like it's that grounding that He wants you to have. And so take that same ideology and back into your actual intentional Salah. When you're doing the movements and you're connecting to God, you look at it as a moment that you're spending with your Creator, not just something that you need to get done and get out the way. Those movements, those stretches, the things that we're saying at each position right there is how you're connecting your mind to your body, because you're being intentional with it and you're in the moment and you're not just trying to get it done to the next thing. And so that's another way that I found to connect to my femininity. The next one is to express yourself with authenticity. I'm connecting this point directly back to being closed off and having a hard time expressing oneself and just having a numbness to things that are happening around you. That's not feminine. You're being hard. You're being your wounded masculine. You're shutting down. We don't want you to do that. I want you to express yourself authentically, proudly, loudly if you have to, but share how you feel and release. Oftentimes in the femininity world and that like toxic environment, they kind of teach you guys to be docile. And that's not feminine. Like what exactly are we teaching young girls to do when we're saying, "Oh, you want to speak this way," and high value man wouldn't want this and a high value man wouldn't want that. Femininity is not surrounded or founded on the basis of a man. Okay? Again, this is your future. This is something that comes naturally to you. This is for you. This is what is going to make you feel fulfilled in your life. So, for you to base what it is to be a feminine woman and to unlock that aspect of yourself on what the male gaze requires is absolutely ridiculous. And that's why I keep telling y'all to stop watching those videos and stop staying on that side of TikTok. Actually go ahead and do your research and find things that will actually be helpful and beneficial to your self-development and growth. Do the research, do the work, read some books, and have an understanding of what this means on the fundamental level, right? So back to my point about expressing oneself authentically. When you share how you feel and you express yourself and you tell the people around you the things that are affecting you, or you tell the people around you that you need help with this, and you bring people in to your world, you're not harboring so much of that negative energy or that pent-up energy. You're releasing. There's a release. There's a divine release from that, and you feel so much better. The importance of this is that it teaches you to accept your emotions. You guys notice that sometimes, like, we kind of gaslight ourselves. That's because sometimes we don't trust our own emotions. We don't trust ourselves. We are not comfortable or confident with the way we feel because maybe we've been shut down so many times over the years by the people that we're supposed to trust and be able to express ourselves to. That's understandable, but we're growing older. We're doing the work. This is self-development. And in that, you have to learn and practice to express and break that pattern. Because 2024, we're our best self. Lastly, or actually second to lastly, I want to talk about going on ahead and bringing that other aspect that femininity TikTok likes to put down our throats, which is self-care. And self-care looks very different to everyone, but I want to point out how important this is in Islam, because it tells you cleanliness is next to godliness, right? Taking care of yourself is very important. Looking the part is very important. Even Allah encourages us to dress up for Jummah, to come to His house, right? So looking good and being put together is a part of our religion. It's important. But looking good doesn't just mean putting on makeup. It's like part of it. Doesn't mean just putting on the nicest clothes. It means doing the care. So like being intentional with your wudu, being intentional with those showers you're taking, keeping your nails clean and kept, doing your skincare, right? Because you're appearing and you're showing the world your best self. That's so important. And it's not just for the vain aspect of it. It's because when you look good, you feel good, okay? And when you feel good, you're more confident. And when you're more confident, you'll speak authentically and express yourself authentically. And when you express yourself authentically, you'll be more open to, asking people for help, right? And everything is a trickle-down effect. Are you staying with me? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? I hope you are. And the last thing is you cannot pour from an empty cup. Remember that, ladies. I feel like we all have this complex. We have to save somebody and we have to be it for everyone and we're not enough. And some of us have this people-pleasing complex, myself included. Okay. I've been there. I am growing. I'm breaking that out of my system because it does nothing for you, right? I tell this to my aunties, to my mom, to the women around me that have children specifically. You cannot pour from an empty cup, okay? So in order for you to be an active member of your family and a valued member of your family, you have to take care of yourself. Because if you think about it, when your mom comes home from work and she's super, super tired, and then she goes into the kitchen and she cooks dinner for your dad, and then, she goes to sleep and she does the whole routine over and over again, and then you try to relate with her, communicate with her, she's drained. The her that you're getting is tired. She's deflated form, and it's just not the best sight. But when she takes care of herself, she takes a day off, she spends time doing things that she loves, you notice that there's a spark in her eye. And so I'm talking to that person that this relates to, that you've lost that spark. People notice. The people around you that love you notice. So just spend that time with yourself and heal your inner child. Heal yourself for yourself so that you can be the best version of yourself for everyone around you and for you. Back onto the topic of tawakkul. So to be feminine is to have tawakkul, is to put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that everything is going to work out. And I keep telling you guys, it's really important to balance both. It's really important to balance your divine feminine and your divine masculine. And this isn't something that you're going to pick up and have overnight. It's something that you work on and you continue to work on and you continue to work at. And eventually you'll find that once you start applying little bits and pieces of the things that you learn along the way during this journey, that wow, you're healing yourself, right? I said earlier that the foundation to everything is Islam. And the reason why I say this is because when you look at it, we talk about Salah, we talk about fasting, we talk about tawakkul, we talk about fitra, all these, even dua. Everything is connected to Islam. And I'm not here to voice a narrative down anyone's throat. I'm just saying my observation as a Muslim woman and things that have strengthened my faith, really strengthened my iman and solidified my position in this religion. Number one, we talked about Salah and how that kind of relates to doing yoga and things like that, right? But let's not take it a step further. Let's talk about manifestation. You guys are ever scrolling through TikTok and you see videos like, I am rich, I have $1 billion, I am his dream girl. And they're chanting these things, right? And they're saying it as though it's already happened. Tell me, when we make dua, what is the prerequisite for dua? I'll wait. And then I'll tell you. When you are going in to pray to Allah for something, first things first, you have to believe that Allah has answered that prayer, right? We do not pray to Allah without knowing and believing in our hearts that He has accepted our prayer. What does that sound like? It sounds like manifestation. So if I say that inshallah, this is going to happen, when I said it, I believed that inshallah, it is going to happen. There's no doubt in my mind that Allah heard this prayer or He didn't hear this prayer and He's not going to answer it. No, I said it. Me and God, we locked in. So if it's what's best for me, it's going to happen, right? Again, Islam is the foundation to everything. Just saying. Fasting. Let's talk about the intermittent fasting that people will be doing, all the different types of fasting people will be doing. Let's even take the fasting, the actual not eating aspect out of it. Let's take the slowing down part of it, right? The slowing down. Anybody ever felt like during Ramadan they were in a bubble? We're in an Islamic bubble where life is just so beautiful and harmonious, and you're praying your 5 daily prayers on time, you're going to the masjid, everyone's a lot kinder, there's community, all of that, right? When I say Islam's the foundation of everything, I mean it. Because ever think about how when we pray Tarawih prayer, and we are literally doing all those rakahs over and over again every single night for 30 days. Maybe you don't go every day for the 30 days. Let's say you do 15, but you do all that every single day. Do you guys realize that part of the reason why we're tasked and encouraged to do that is because it shows you that you can do it with discipline, with perseverance and with a little bit more faith, right? You can do it. Meaning, your 5 daily prayers on a norm shouldn't be that difficult because you literally did your 5 daily prayers and then some. And then you woke up in the middle of the night to pray the Hajjud prayer because it's Ramadan. So if you took that same energy and that same essence outside of Ramadan and you did it all the time, do you realize that you would be so much happier because you're that much closer to Allah? I don't know. It's just a food for thought. Obviously, Islam is perfect and humans are not. That's why we have free will. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to get confused. But to be a part of this religion is to understand that you're going to make mistakes. Your Lord will forgive you. But this religion is a perfect way of life, you know? And for anyone who's thinking about, converting to Islam or reverting to Islam, understand that this is a perfect way of life. People just aren't perfect. I love this religion and I love its teachings because despite what society shares and what community shares and what culture preaches, all in the name of Islam, nothing compares to what's actually in the books and what's in the hadiths and what's in the teachings of Islam and the stories of the great women and the stories of the great men that are encompassed within the Quran and all the holy books. Nothing. We are taught about women's rights, we're taught about the woman's value. And so if in today's society in the West, you feel like you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that, and it's not something that sits well with you, it's not something that actually applies to what you actually want to be doing, you're not being fulfilled by it, it's because that's not what you're meant to be doing. Go back to the books and read it, and you'll see that women were doing this, they were doing that, they were doing this, and they were still valued members of their household. Again, just food for thought. Today's video was a short one. I hope it was something that actually resonated with you guys. I could talk about femininity all day, every day, but I just thought I would start this conversation, and inshallah, we can talk more about it everywhere else and in the comment section down below. If this is something that you actually really enjoyed, inshallah, maybe I'll be able to bring on a guest and we can talk a little bit more about it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.